The stories of those who perished in one of World War II's largest concentration camps. That is the focus of a new documentary by Serbian filmmaker Danko Vasović, which premiered here on RT this week. In an extended sit-down, my colleague Murat Hamami spoke with the director about the ways that tragic history continues to affect global politics.
Sometimes in your life, professional life, and your, let's say, ordinary, normal life, you recognize what is the mission of your life. It happened to me that I cooperated with the greatest Nazi hunter of all times, with Simon Wiesenthal, in Vienna, in Jüdische Dokumentationszentrum for several years. We've been very much connected. And then he put me a question which fully reveals me an open new horizon. He said, who will speak for the victims? So I think this humanity and the mankind should put this question today. Who will speak for the victims? How is it possible that people forgot the victims?
Right.
In that sense, it's all connected. You know, it's really all connected if you know something about subatomic particles, if you know the universe, it's all connected. We are connected. We are caught by the past, by the history. That's why we have even now ongoing war in Ukraine, which is not the war with Ukraine. This is a clear war, NATO against Russia. So what I'm saying is I recognize that as my mission to speak for the victims, because this subject was always hidden for political reasons. Yugoslav former legendary partisan leader, it turned out to be, let's say, a big and a fake figure, even on political scene. I'm talking about Yugoslav President Tito, legendary commander, so-called. But in fact, he was a British agent. Mm-hmm. And that's the role that he played by cutting Yugoslavia. Let's say it should be, according to the deal in Yalta, 50-50% of interest territory of Yugoslavia. Okay, the point is, for political reasons, this concentration camp, which was the worst in Europe that existed during the Second World War, and the third as the largest, and the only Nazi camp, because it was a Nazi puppet state, Croatia, that was the only concentration camp that has never been liberated. Auschwitz was liberated by Russians, Dachau by Americans. But Jasenovac never was working and was effective till the last day, 2 weeks before the victory day. So it's untold stories still.
Indeed.
And there is a big discussion. I don't want to be involved in that. I would like to be seen as a normal person, creature, who is in pursuit, who is searching for the truth.
Right.
And that's why I don't want to be involved in this game. Let's say the figures, numbers, 30,000, 50, 10,000, sure. 800,000, 1 million. I think the best will be to stick what Nuremberg trial established. So they established 700,000.
Right.
People demonstrated after the war, they said 840,000. Croatian President Tudjman said only 30,000. When everybody knows it was the highest percentage of the Jews exterminated. But only Jews is more than 30,000.
It's interesting.
It's 91%.
It's interesting you say that the Croatian president said it lowballed it. It's 30,000. But
this is.
I mean, do they know? Do they remember the story of the? Yeah,
of course. But the problem is, Murad, they just don't want to remember. You know why? Because they sent the best Croatian blood, a legion, to fight in Stalingrad. Not so many of them survived. So we have the history that repeated. For example, in 2006, this is a specific answer in your question, I've been in touch with the Department of State has the Holocaust ambassador. His name was Edward O'Donnell. And there was also a person who was the chief of so-called Croatian office in the Department of State. His name was, I don't know if he's still alive, I hope he is, Mr. Brad Bell. They both announced that they have 100% promise of Croatian government that they will pay compensation to all non-Croatian citizens who were victims of the Nazi regime during the Second World War. And they lied. It never put into fact. Right. Part of that responsibility lays for sure on Serbian President Vučić, who never raised that question.
Right.
And I don't want to be seen now that I'm talking about something against the president in my country, in foreign country. But he agreed with the Croatian president at that time, it was a woman, that he is not going to mention, let's say, Jasenovac. So he just continued the same politics for the political reasons to have a peace in region,
Look,
not to open the questions.
Danko, you mentioned a lot of things here that sort of connects to, how things were back during World War II and how they are now.
Exactly.
We see the special military operation of Russia trying to eradicate Nazism in Ukraine.
Right.
Yet, the Western, I don't like to use the word Western, but some...
You wouldn't miss if you say West.
Exactly. A lot of these countries feel that they're not learning from the past. You're a filmmaker.
No, they learn.
If they learn from the past, why do they support Nazism? Well, we see it in plain sight.
I'll tell you right away.
Why do we see it there? Sure, please.
I'll tell you right away. The point is that Soviet Union made the biggest, largest contribution. Okay, Allies, they won the war, but they never finished the job. It's still an unfinished job. So denazification has never been done, period. Never. So that's how this monster, Frankenstein monster, was reborn and rebirthed. I must recall people's memory, after the Second World War, okay, we had the so-called Cold War. But what happened? The United States, the former, let's say, it was the Office of Strategic Services, predecessor of CIA. And they took 150, the best Abwehr officers. They took them with the Reinhard Gehlen, who established even the BND, Bundesnachrichtendienst. But these people led this Cold War. So they've been the worst war criminals. And they found, let's say, the safe haven in the United States, even under the umbrella of CIA. And every citizen who wants to visit the United States, there is a question, are you affiliated or you have something in common with the Nazi? It's a funny, it's a burlesque, it's a funny...
Ironic, really.
Exactly. So 150, they've been alive, they kept CIA, they gave the line, made the line to CIA, and which is the worst. They sold the Hitler's idea, which was his exit strategy, how to, let's say, to close the war, because Hitler knew that he is going to lose. And he knew. So his idea was to put the blame on communists. So they wanted to see, let's say, Soviet Union as communist country. So they wanted to present this is the worst. So his plan was simple, and people will understand what's going on today in Ukraine if they understand just most important thing in Hitler's order, which was done in this exit strategy in 1944, Russland muss bleibt in Asien. So the Russian must be kept in Asia. So what they did, they established under the CIA, and the first CIA chief, as you know, was Allen Dulles. His another brother was the state secretary, John Foster Dulles. So two brothers kept the whole United States. So the Allen Dulles created, and this is a true story, what the Europe is and why we have this problem today. So he established the United States Committee for United Europe. This is a true story how the EU was born. This is a fake story and a lie, the union of coal and steel. No, the purpose was only one, to create Europe as a force who will fight against Soviet Union and Russia.
I mean, it doesn't sound too far-fetched to believe that.
No, look, I have a document.
They were left there just in case the US or, you know...
Who was the last? I must tell you something.
Sure.
Since the Allen Dulles brought this decision, which was signed by the Congress of the United States, the several top leading companies like Ford, they financed the beginning and the birth of the United States Committee for United Europe.
Right.
So 90% of members and of the people of the Council of Europe were financed directly from that fund.
Okay.
So now you can understand why Russia faced the situation.
So they were
to be expelled from the country.
So
exactly.
Russia, USSR then, Russia today, was already enemy number one way before.
That's it.
But if we go back, we commemorated the lives lost during Victory Day. We talked about some 27 million souls were lost when Russia ended basically World War II. I mean, do these countries of the European Union and the United States, who, look, lives lost are lives lost, a couple of 100,000, but a couple of 100,000
even a single
to 27 million.
Incredible.
And Russia, at the end of the day, want to commemorate their soldiers. I was wearing a ribbon here.
Ribbon. Georgian,
this St. George's ribbon. You know, why do they feel so... Just because the Russians tried to, you know, commemorate their soldiers and all lives lost. Even Putin was talking about the lives lost by, you know, allies during that time. Why do you think there was so much against? Why were they so against the St. George's ribbon? Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it's not St. George's ribbon. It's what represents St. George's ribbon. St. George's ribbon represents truth. Represents liberty, represents above all victory over Nazism, represents above all victory against Hitler's main idea that all untermenschen Rasse must be annihilated, exterminated, or as he said in German, eine total Vernichtung of the untermenschen Rasse, at first place Jews and then the Slavs. So that's why these Einsatzgruppe killed so many people in Russia, in Soviet Union at that time. So that's why it irritates them. They want to rewrite the Second World history, and they're pretty much successful. Part of responsibility lays also on Soviet Union, because in 1943, and that's international law, law is law, and never denied, was brought, so-called Moscow Declaration, that every Nazi war criminal, every criminal must be brought to justice in the places where he committed crime. And it has never been done. It has never been put into effect. There is a big responsibility on the back of Soviet Union, so the monster, Frankenstein monster, was reborn.
Indeed.
Never punished, and they worked day by day, always increasing efforts, and now they strangled whole Russia. This is the fact. This is the fact in we live in. And this is the story. So that's why they don't like Georgian ribbon for what Georgian ribbon represents.
Indeed.
So this is the story.
I understand.
And you know, to be on the side of the truth in the whole history of the mankind, it has never been welcome. The truth was always in minority.
Sure.
One of the biggest victims, okay, even the West and the East, we are all Christians. Jesus Christ was the first who paid for the truth. So that's the destiny of those who fight for the truth. But that's why President Putin is today recognized by majority of the world as the only hope in fight against the forces of evil and against the Nazism. So simply what I'm saying is, please deny me if you can, or say something. But I'm telling you, President Putin has every legal ground based on Moscow Declaration to cut and to prevent again Nazism and the crimes.